Good morning all, happy Easter. This is Easter 2021 and it's a momentous day, a big day for all of us, and we need to make good choices on this day. So we're delighted to be sharing with you all our news, and we'll be doing that in various ways. Today we're going to talk about something about where we've been, where we are now, and also where we're going. It's not going to be a very long engagement here, because I think we can make our points very clearly. Sorry, I'll just turn this off. Sorry, I think I've turned that off. So, the first thing I want to start with is to just focus our minds on what it's like to actually campaign in these times. And it's something that was sent to me, and it's very touching. So, it's called The Man in the Arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. You may recognise that quote. It's Roosevelt, and I think it's very apt. It's because what it's saying is, be proud of standing up and speaking up, and know that sitting on the fence, as a colleague of mine points out to many, you just get splinters in a very uncomfortable place. So we will never sit on the fence. We will build our armoury again and again until full restitution, the earned dues of 50s women, is in their hands. So nothing has changed, nothing whatsoever. Full restitution is in the crosshairs, and I'll explain a bit more about that later. So where have we been? I've looked back right back to 2013, and I'm not about to go in detail about that time, except to say what a magnificent story this is. This will lay down in history how women are treated by a misogynistic system. It's plain to see that women are treated abominably. We will change that, and I'll tell you how we're going to do that as well. So we're looking really at the well-being of future generations through the prism of women's rights. And if you'd like to just focus on that for a moment. The well-being of future generations. This is no longer about 50s women alone. This is about half the country, of women and girls, who is a voting bloc that will be using their votes wisely in the upcoming elections. So, without the King of Human Rights, who shifted the earth beneath the establishment, Backto60, the client in their judicial review, would never have gotten 3.8 million women to the Supreme Court. We were on the steps of the Supreme Court, and the Backto60 Digi team is the best team. They work so hard. Nobody knows how hard they work and how they have to manage commitments in their lives and still uphold everything that Backto60 does. And I can't tell you the feeling of a team that is invincible, absolutely invincible. And you know, we need to give them credit, because getting to the Supreme Court was, yes, it was about crowdfunding. It was about individual women, not groups, individual women across the country making donations. And it was about the campaign, as it says in the quote I just read, being out there, actually in the arena, and which it can be a very tough place. But it's also a great opportunity, social media, and we make the most of that. So right now we've had news this week about the decision of the Supreme Court. There's much being said about that decision, but I think the bottom line is to have denied the appeal on the basis of delay in bringing proceedings is, well, I'm going to say shameless, because what would they have done? Were they really interested in what 50s women had been saying? For instance, Parliament, there's 225 MPs who have signed EDM 2296, beg your pardon. So EDM 2296. And in that EDM it says that it calls out discrimination against 50s women, and it calls for a temporary special measure out of CEDAW. And as everyone will remember, £58 billion was put on the table at the time of the last general election. So how can Parliament be saying this is discrimination, and by the way, here's £58 billion because we recognise the discrimination, and then we go to court and they won't even hear us out? Yeah, that is a moment in history that will be marked out by historians in the struggle for women's Bill of Rights. So we're very proud to have gotten to the Supreme Court, and very proud indeed. And our campaign that has been going on for years, since 2017, although many people were around, you know, Backto60 people were around before that, but the actual campaign started in 2017. Now, the cost of a campaign of that magnitude over those many years, if we had employed a public relations company like some others have done, it would, we estimate, have costed easily £250,000 just for the campaign. As it was, we're all volunteers and we give our time generously without expecting payment. So that point needs to be pondered on, that the campaign itself, without anything else, without even going to court, would have cost at least £250,000. And that is a very, that underestimates the cost actually. So please remember, whatever happens in the court, nothing has changed. Full restitution for all 50s women is in the crosshairs, and those earned dues will be secured back. And we will not step back until those earned dues are in our hands. We have plans how we're going to do that, and they're very solid plans. And we're very proud of the plans that we've developed, whilst we've been waiting for the results from various courts, we've kept busy. We haven't been sitting on our hands. We've got absolutely world-class plans in hand. So, you know, the feebleness of the decision to refuse the Supreme Court appeal is driving us. We're using that news to actually convert it into energy to do what we must continue to do. We respect the Parliament, the judiciary and everybody else in the arena. However, if anybody has any doubt about where we're going now, then please think again, because full restitution for all 50s women, their earned dues is in the crosshairs, and we are marching towards full restitution. So what I want to say now is something about the well-being of future generations through the prism of women's rights. So to protect future generations from the cruelty that 50s women continue to suffer, many women on the front line in this pandemic who are absolutely exhausted, and their mental and physical health has been impaired over the years. One lady, whose name I won't mention, but she said on social media, you know, I've got my pension today, I'm so pleased. And she was attacked mercilessly. And I don't think I'll ever forget the actual tweet, which has been, it's actually gone viral, because she calls out the abuse and that she suffered, as well as the cruelty of not having her pension. So what we need to focus on is where we're going, and where we are going is forward with CEDAW and a Women's Bill of Rights. Now CEDAW it actually eliminates, it's a UN convention, and it's ratified in this country 40 years ago. It's an international law that can be used in this country in the way that I'm going to describe. So to eliminate the discrimination, the undoubted discrimination that 50s women have still suffering, what we're going to do is work together to convene a Women's Bill of Rights, in the instructions for a Women's Bill of Rights. So we're going to be watching out what other people are doing, particularly in Scotland, and we'll put together this Women's Bill of Rights, the draft legislation. Concurrently, what will run beside that is the CEDAW People's Tribunal. Now, the CEDAW People's Tribunal, if you're not aware, it's convened to look at CEDAW and how CEDAW, over the past 40 years since it was ratified, how that has been used or not used appropriately in this country to protect the rights of women and girls. So my understanding is that they have an independent panel of judges, extraordinary women who will be on that panel with, they are well able to do what I've just described. Look at CEDAW, how it's, what the gaps are, why we need it, and how they suggest that CEDAW is used in the future. And there's a evidence bank in there that everybody's working so hard, I'm led to believe, to put this evidence bank ready for council to develop the case so that he can lead the tribunal. And that will take place this year, and there'll be more about the detail later. So there's actually also a squad of legal assistants who are working pro bono, and it's so energising to know that young people want to support CEDAW in the way that they're helping us. They're an amazing bunch of young people, so talented, and obviously because of the pandemic, they're actually, like many, suffering right now, but they're turning that time to turn everything around so that they can see that younger generations will benefit from a Women's Bill of Rights. It's very difficult. I mean, I wrote lots of notes which I'm looking at here, and actually they're superfluous, because the call to action is go to the CEDAWpt.com website, have a look around there and see what you think. Subscribe to it, it's free to subscribe, and you'll get the information as it comes out of the tribunal, all the news, you'll be first to hear. And we'll be making more announcements in that direction. So look at that, and what they need is your support, and they need your support. They need you to go on social media and say, hey, check out CEDAWpt.com, look what's going on here, because this tribunal is going to look at the way women in a misogynistic system, actually, is my opinion, are treated within the system. And it's time to scrutinise at least the last 40 years and bring to the notice of those in power, bring to the notice that to them that, you know, what we're actually thinking about. There's no UK CEDAW rep, there's no up-to-date training in Parliament of CEDAW, and actually, why has CEDAW never been transposed into domestic law? As we know, Nicola Sturgeon is well ahead on that tack, and she's going to be embarrassing everybody else, actually, by getting ahead of the curve and transposing the Women's Bill of Rights, as they see it in Scotland, into domestic law. So go to the website, tell everybody else, tweet about you know, CEDAWpt.com, and tell everybody, check this out. And you know, this is a way to protect your children and your nieces and nephews and your any family, any type of family that you're in will benefit from a Women's Bill of Rights, because the well-being of future generations through the prism of women's rights will emerge out of CEDAW. You know, it's so important to think about not only 50s women, but also what we need to do for younger generations, especially as we come out of the pandemic. So this week has been pretty tough, actually. We've got lots of messages from people who can't understand why the Supreme Court refused to hear the case. But what we must do, we can't change their decision. That's their decision. What we can do is think, okay, right, what is the objective? The objective is full restitution for 50s women, and nothing has changed. That is our goal, full restitution for 50s women, whilst we watch and observe and support CEDAWpt.com in their work, because that is an independent people's tribunal. They operate and function as a separate entity themselves. They don't have to ask permission to for any UK court of law. For anything they do, is totally independent. So check out CEDAWpt.com, tell everybody about CEDAWpt.com, and support them in any way you can, because that is the way forward. and a bit further down the line, Backto60 will be going to Parliament and telling them, you know, why we need a Women's Bill of Rights. I'm sure they know, but, you know, we want to highlight the fact that there is a need for one, because all the legislation to date is inadequate. Yes, there has been some movement, but what we need is a tsunami of change, a great historical act of law where young women and girls and their families and friends and society and all the communities, they benefit, because if you look after women, they look after, you know, historically women have been the centre of the family, 50s women, where, you know, most likely the man has gone out to work, and the 50s women have looked after the family and done part-time jobs and suffered it, you know, for doing that financially. So what we need is to be at the table with everybody else, voicing our views and making sure that when, as policies are developed, that those policies actually come from the angle of what women want, not only what others think women want, but we have a say in the development of those policies, because it's very important that we have a say at that table, at any table that where policy is being developed, where bills are being developed, where laws might be amended. It's really important. So please, you know, do as I say. Go to cdorpt.com and check it out, because this year we will CPT will make history. That's what they're doing there. They're making history with their work, which is groundbreaking, audacious, and absolutely fabulous. I mean, I can't tell you how overdue that work is. It is so overdue, and we're getting messages from people saying, we're so proud of what you're doing, you know, we'd love to help you. And that is really uplifting, actually, because these people that want to help have the credentials to make a difference. So thank you for your time, and, you know, please transfer this moment. This is a big moment, and we must make the right choice at this moment, which is stay focused on full restitution, and know that whilst you're focused on full restitution, which we will be able to do through CEDAW and a temporary special measure, we have an EDM 2296 with 225 MPs on board. We know that there are more, but it closed down the EDM because Parliament closed, no other reason. Our estimation is that there's a majority of MPs supporting us. So there's a great deal of work to be done there. You just need to check out the cdorpt.com, and you'll see there'll be fast breaking news there leading up quite soon. And we hope that this Easter we've been able to rest everybody assured that nothing has changed, that full restitution is in the crosshairs, and we're walking towards that full restitution. And until those earned dues are secured back, we will never retreat. Never retreat. We just can't let this go now. It's become much bigger than anyone had ever anticipated. We would have actually been quite happy when we first went to 10 Downing Street, when Theresa May was the Prime Minister, a 50s woman who could have easily helped. And we went there 4 times with an amazing amount of evidence, surveys, films, petitions, letters, legal backup, you know, saying unless you do something we will be going to court. And every single time we were ignored. So nobody can say that we jumped into this judicial review journey, because we thought to ourselves, well, you know, yeah, that'd be great, because let's spend 5 years volunteering our work, our time, and our golden years. Let's spend our time doing that, when we could have been, at least for part of the time, enjoying the retirement we'd planned all our lives. No, we didn't want this. Our hand was forced, and we're very proud of the work of our legal team, of everybody that supported us, in particular the best team, the Backto60 Digit team. And actually there's other people that have supported us, and I'm sure you know who they are, and they're still supporting us. You know, prominent figures, and I can't express at this moment in time, but you know, I'm writing all this down as we go along, and we will make sure that social history marks out this time accurately, the journey that from, you know, the lives 50s women have faced, and you know, all the inequities there, and how they were treated, in particular, throughout, say, the last 5 years. That will be always remembered. It won't be forgotten, ever. We'll make sure of that. So I'm going to be heading off now, but the call to action is, please go to cdoorpt.com. Check it out, and know that for restitution is in the crosshairs, and we will never retreat until we have our earned dues back, because we're entitled to those funds. It's our property, and by the way, it costs a big fat zero to return our money. It's our earned dues. All these stupefying figures that are going around, that's just identifying how much they've taken. And yeah, so it's really heartbreaking, actually, sitting here knowing that there's women out there who are devastated, and even before, you know, we started the judicial review, their lives were in tatters. And I dread to think where some women are at this point in time. We know that there was one 50s woman who contacted us, and we had a Zoom with her, and she was quite famous, actually, but her life, because of successive life events that turned against her, and then not having her pension, she was living on the streets. And thankfully a charity came along and found her and helped her, and it was very difficult to listen to her story, because she had planned her life very well. She had planned, as we all have, for the retirement that we had expected. And because of these life events, and her pension being stolen, she ended up on the streets. Now that is just one example. We estimate that there are many, many women out there on the streets, and we fear for their mental fitness and their physical fitness, and the danger they're in, actually, being on the street. Now, I'm not saying that all 50s women are on the street, they're not, but there is a percentage of women in those dire straits. Others are now have their pensions, but they're living very simply on their state pension, and they're broken, actually. Like the lady I told you about, she was attacked online, and she called out the abuse. She will never forget the way she was treated, mainly by men, interestingly. And she said there was a cabal of people who were spearheading the attacks. It's really sad. So if you're on social media, by the way, and you feel that you are being harassed, so there's something that you can remember. It's an acronym. It's FOR, okay? So if somebody is fixated, obsessed, and attacks you with unwanted and repeated abuse, then it's actually a criminal offence. So if you head over to the Susie Lamplugh Trust, there's great detail there how to identify that and how you can report it to them. And if you feel that is the case, then head over there. If you feel that you can cope without any help, then you must do that. I'm talking now to the few people who have been mercilessly attacked, and you know, there's no way we can help prevent that except in the way that I've described, and obviously block, mute, and unfollow, all the other techniques, and don't engage with them. That also works, because as we move forward and as we get closer to securing full restitution, we must learn to protect ourselves in the way that has been described to us, what has been advised to us, how to protect the campaign and how to protect individuals within it. And that's the way one way you can do it. There's other systems on social media, but what we're hearing is that they're not so effective as the one that I've described. So remember, it's for fixated, obsessive, unwanted, repeated attacks. So remember that, protect yourself, take Twitter breaks or Facebook breaks, whatever you need to do that, because if you if you're in a position where your mental fitness is challenged because of you've lost your pension, or because of the impact of austerity, the pandemic, Brexit, climate change. I mean, there are so many major topics that people are facing that this is the time to do what we hear is now called self-care. So please remember that. We practice it ourselves as much as we can too. So the call to action is, please remember that nothing has changed. It's Easter Sunday 2021. We've had the decision from the Supreme Court, but nothing has changed. Full restitution is in the crosshairs, and we will never retreat until full restitution is ours. And I'll say again, it costs zero for full restitution to return the property to rightful owners, which was taken at the 11th hour when a social contract, a lifelong social contract, was in place. And you can't break a social contract at the last minute, just on the cusp of retirement, and without telling women. I mean, even Owen Smith said back in 1995, before the Pension Act, 1 month before the Pension Act came into being, he said they sent out letters, 5-page letters, to would-be pensioners, let's say, and those letters never mentioned about the imminent escalation in state pension ages. Now, why would you send out a 5-page letter just before the pension age was about to be changed, and not mention it, and not mention that you wouldn't be getting your pension at 60? I mean, he said the letters were neither an ornament or basically they were no use, and he was the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Now, when a man of that calibre calls out such I'm struggling to find a word here, because have to be respectful, but the impact of the cumulative effect of not telling women, not notifying them, and in any way treating them in a way that they've never treated men. 9.8 million men who were given 5 years free national insurance contributions to retire 5 years early at the age of 60, whilst 3.8 million women were told, actually, you head off back to work because we've taken your pension for up to 6 years. And obviously, how is that not discrimination? I mean, it's blatant discrimination. And we feel that had we been allowed the appeal, we would have easily won the appeal, basically, at the hearing, because our evidence was phenomenal. So why wouldn't they want to hear it? Why wouldn't they? I mean, what's the harm in listening? None. We had substantive evidence that had been acknowledged and throughout the the earlier years in the courts, and I can't tell you that how disappointing it is that the Supreme Court didn't want to listen. So onward we go to full restitution in the crosshairs. We will not retreat until those earned dues are in the hands of 50s women. So please head over to cdorpt.com, see what they're doing. They'll be releasing breaking news quite soon, as well as the incredible news that they've broken this weekend about the independent judges, about the academic consultants, that team is being expanded, about the witnesses, about the steering committee, about the qualified legal assistants. I mean, it just is absolutely manna from heaven. It's manna from heaven for not only for 50s women. It's not about 50s women. It's about all women and girls. And it's high time that women and girls were treated in the way that they expect, with respect, and have a voice at the table where policies are being made. So as far as you can, try and rest up this Easter if you don't have to work, and take some time to look at cdorpt.com, and on social media, tell everybody about them. Wherever you are, tell everybody about them, because it's really important to get the word out there, and just invite them to look at the website and support them in any way that they wish to. John Cooper QC, he's counsel there, and needless to say, we all know that he is known as the star of the criminal bar. He is one of the top 500, legal 500. It's just, we're so delighted that with the team over there. I mean, we are not worthy. They are amazing, and especially the young people. The legal assistants. I'm so proud of everybody there. The steering committee is working doubly hard to steer the tribunal in the way that is required. The People's Tribunal is required. All the documentation is done, the evidence gathering, they're sorting out preparations for the hearings and the tribunal itself and the reports out of the hearing. I mean, the workload is, so demanding that the pace is frenetic. It's frenetic. They keep going, and because they know that they are in control and they can deliver the tribunal on dates that it suits them, and and the judges will look at things independently, and that's really important. It will be an independent panel of judges, and people's tribunals can engage with any other inquiry that is concurrent. So, you know, there will be other inquiries, most likely that they'll be inviting to give evidence and vice versa. So, I mean, I'm really pleased that actually the Backto60 campaign is where it is and was able to give birth, so to speak, to the Seador People's Tribunal, which acts as independently from Backto60. So Backto60 is one entity and the Seador PT is another entity acting independently. But Backto60 is, you know, keeping their eye on everything, the arena that we spoke about earlier, and also, you know, what everybody is doing. One word about the PHSO. The PHSO, we understand, has been defunded, and also we were approached by the PHSO 3 times, and we gave them the legal advice, which was basically the judicial review is nothing whatsoever to do with the maladministration investigation. And 3 times we asked them to confirm acknowledgement of receipt of that advice, and 3 times they ignored it. So basically the PHSO froze the investigation in the knowledge that the judicial review is nothing to do with it. So why would you freeze the investigation knowing that it's nothing to do with it? And we've told the co-chairs, the new co-chairs of the APPG, that information, so that they know. And by the way, there are 6 people who are the finalists, so to speak, in that investigation, and their testimony is legally privileged information, we understand. So it's not owned by any group. And even the PHSO himself has said, you know, it's not for discussion, people should not be discussing that. So it's actually the people, the 6, which I understand is led by Maladmin at Malad on social media, and they're waiting for a final report to come out. So we don't know what the PHSO is going to do, but we were disappointed to see that the investigation was apparently erroneously paused. Why they've never given a good reason for pausing the investigation for all this time, we'll never know. But why Sunak would, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, why he would defund it is notable, a question that needs to be asked. So, yeah, I can see people are sending me messages and, you know, to thank Backto60 and, you know, wishing everybody a happy Easter, and you know, how grateful they are to Backto60, the clients, and everybody that's been fighting for 3.8 million women, the world-class legal team and everybody involved in that team, you know, who has worked so hard over the years. I know how grateful you are to them, as are we. We're grateful to everybody involved that has supported us, and we will, you know, be grateful for that continued support, because, you know, we are invincible, and on the day we secure back full restitution for 50s women, that will be the day that we will say thank you, and yeah, about time, way overdue. And the you know, the way they've treated 50s women, in the knowledge that they're suffering, many have suggested that it's misconduct in public office, and that is continuing as well. So I think that's a question that needs to be asked. Why are they continuing to treat women this way, when quite frankly, the use of CEDAW and a temporary special measure and the EDM 2296 can easily, overnight, produce full restitution for all 50s women. There is no barrier in the way, none. It's just a matter of will, and does Parliament want to sort it out? Like they sort out many things recently. You know, they've shown all the mechanisms they can use during this pandemic, and particularly because of Brexit, with the Prime Minister has been using delegated powers and standing orders to do many things, and some without consulting Parliament. So he's said in the past that he's going to be sorting this out, and we're holding him to that promise. We know what people say about him, but if somebody promises us something, we expect them to deliver that promise, and we will keep reminding everybody about that promise and about the 58 billion that was put on the table. So anyway, I'm heading off now, and just to wish you happy Easter, and you know, stay with us. We've been so busy, and it's been very difficult to engage on social media, because had we done so in the way that we would have liked, we would have not been able to deliver the work that had to be done, which is behind the scenes and nobody sees. So we focused on doing the planning forward and all the admin involved in planning forward, and there'll be lots of news coming out, but not right now. We are taking a well-earned breather, and we are looking forward to the day when we can celebrate with you all, when we have full restitution, because yeah, that will be some party. So just visualise that party. You know, we will go to Parliament, on the green outside Parliament, and we will have a party like there's never been, and we will show everybody that you must stand up in life and not sit on the fence, and speak up. And we're proud that we've been able to hold the powerful to account with facts and figures, and look them in the eye, and they know that, you know, what we're saying is actually staying rent-free in their heads now, because they know that what we're saying is factual, and it's not anecdotal or, you know, just conversational. We've had tremendous reports written that we've submitted to Parliament and to other inquiries, which are archived for future use, is all I can say. So thank you everybody so much, and you know, look forward to full restitution. Check out CEDAWpt.com and try and get your head around CEDAW, and how that eliminates discrimination against all women and girls, and the fact that it's been ratified in this country, and it can be used in a court of law and in Parliament to deliver the mechanism, a temporary special measure for full restitution, like that, just like that. There is nothing standing in the way except for the will of people who are able to make these decisions and deliver in the way that I've described. So keep going, and, you know, stick together, and rest assured that we will never retreat. Never retreat. Full restitution is in the crosshairs. I've said it a dozen times, and keep saying it to yourself. Full restitution is in the crosshairs, and we will never retreat until we've secured back those earned dues, because that's your property, that belongs to you, it's your property. And yeah, you know, they can change the laws ad infinitum, but it doesn't mean to say that those laws were changed fairly, and it doesn't mean to say that it was okay to take £271 billion from the National Insurance Fund. Some say it's for £100 million from the National Insurance Fund. And then say, well, actually, we have to extend, you know, the state pension ages. Well, no, you don't have to extend the state pension age. If you mishandle the National Insurance Fund, then look in the mirror. It's your responsibility. You mishandled it. Why should anybody, in particular 50s women, suffer? And we're not prepared to do that. We've worked hard, 50s women, all our lives, and we had a social contract to be delivered at age 60, and we expect that contract to be fulfilled. So thank you for all your messages, and you know, it's just so uplifting, and we're going to try and engage a bit more now. Hopefully we'll have a bit more time, do a few live streams, get some guests to come on and do live stream. Maybe the Backto60 team members might want to do something, or if you want to do a live stream, tell us what you want to say. Use hello@backto60.com, tell us what you want to say, and we'll pick the best. And you know, obviously we know who our supporters are, so yeah, that will be the top criteria. So thank you, everybody. We're so proud of our work. We're righteously proud, and we've been commended for all the work for actually getting to the Supreme Court. I mean, it's an amazing achievement. Everybody that's supported the Backto60 judicial review should be righteously proud, and you know that you actually made history by taking this injustice to the Supreme Court. Okay, so I hope you have, you know, a good day today if you're not working, and that you are able to support CEDAW PT in the way that they need, and make history with them, because that's what this is about. CEDAWpt.com is an audacious people's tribunal that can change the lives and safeguard the well-being of future generations, and you can take part in that history-making moment. So this is the moment to make the right choice. Okay, this is the moment to self-care in the way that we've been shared with you, in the way that we've been advised to do just recently, to share with you that guidance. Okay, take care of yourself, stay with us. For restitution is what you deserve. Okay, you're good enough, just like everybody else is good enough. 50s women are good enough, and you must remember that. Accept nothing less. It's your earned dues, and it's been taken from you, and it's time for those earned dues to be returned. Okay, so thank you so much for everything, for all your support. Please stay with us and check out CEDAWpt.com and see what they're doing, because once you've got your head around actually the People's Tribunal, what that is and what CEDAW is, and the direction of travel of the CEDAW-PT, you'll see how for restitution, CEDAW, the EDM 2296 and the temporary special measure dovetail together. They dovetail together, and it, you know, believe me, at that juncture, it would be such a powerful moment. It would be such a powerful moment, you know, to have CEDAW transposed into domestic law. And let's hope that, you know, people watching the CEDAW-PT will think to themselves, actually, that's a brilliant idea. I think like Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland, you know, like Wales and Northern Ireland, and perhaps the Parliament, UK Parliament, will do the same. Maybe they'll, you know, there's a G7, I think it's October, September in Cornwall, and they are going to be talking about women's rights in the round. Well, why don't they vote like the CSW 65 just had to say that CEDAW needs to be transposed into domestic law? But thank you so much. Okay, I'm pretty tired, and I'm going to be resting up, and I recommend that anybody who has the opportunity to do so also kind of takes a breather, because there's a lot of work to do, and we need to recharge our batteries to do that work. Okay, so happy Easter everybody, and take care of yourselves. Lots of love to everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.